Hey guys, what's going on? In today's video we're going to be talking about what's true and what isn't true when you hear people say certain things about, dealing with deployment and stuff. So let's get into it. The first thing is that you'll hear a lot of people say things like this, and this is just me and my opinion. I don't mean it'll be true or false to everyone, but what have I experienced so far dealing with being in a relationship with someone that's in the military and having to deal with him being gone for long periods of time and all that stuff. It's just some of these things are true and some of them are not. Like I said in my previous video, I've read some blogs about people talking about what it's like to be a military spouse and what to expect and all that stuff. So let's get into it. So the first thing you will hear people say that is true is it's hard to sleep without him. And yes, that is true. The first time I really had to deal with this was last year while he was gone to field training, and it was hard for me to fall asleep. The first time he did field training, he was only gone for 2 weeks. 2 weeks might not sound that long, but by that time, me and him weren't married that long. We were still in the phase of being newlyweds, and all of a sudden, poof, he had to go into the field for 2 weeks. So for those 2 weeks, it was hard for me to fall asleep because I was so used to him sleeping with me in the bed and everything. So I had to, find a thing that helped me fall asleep, which there's this, I don't know if it's just me, but I hear a white noise when I try to fall asleep, like a fan running all the time or whatever. So I would put it on this YouTube video that is running all the time. It's either sounds like it's raining outside or relaxing sounds to help you fall asleep. So I started doing that, and it helped out a lot. But with the deployment, because he's gonna be gone a lot longer than he is in field training, so the first month was the hardest month. And that's another true thing I'll probably talk about here in a little bit. The first month of your first deployment is the hardest month in the deployment, because that first month, those first 2 weeks, I could not fall asleep, even with a noise in the background or whatever to help me fall asleep. So I had to start taking medicine to help me fall asleep because it was that bad. Because I was missing him so much, because I was thinking about how long he was going to be gone for and all these things he's going to miss while he's gone, and it's just a lot to take in, because after you tell him goodbye, it's hard. It really is. So the next thing that you'll hear a lot of people say this, a lot of people still say this to me even to this day, like family, friends. I don't think they know that they come across this way, because I'm the first military spouse in my family. So no one in my family exactly knows what I'm going through. And it's a lot easier to talk to somebody that's been in your situation, because they've already been through it and they know how hard it is. But even with that saying, you'll hear people say like, oh, it'll be over before you know it, saying like, he'll be home before you know it. But it still doesn't make it easier, because he's still going to be gone for so long. Like I told them, he's only been gone for so many months. They're like, oh, one day down, one day closer. But you will think in your head like, that's easy for you to say, but it's not that easy. It's hard. It's a lot harder than you think. And when people say something like that, well, yeah, it is getting closer for him to come home, but yet again, it's still hard for him, for me, for him, not to be here. you know, doesn't make the situation any better. But the next thing that I read on Pinterest, and this was even true when we were even still dating, when he was gone for boot camp, everything reminds you of him. Like, especially when he first left for deployment, like, everything will remind you of him, like certain songs or whatever, things that he liked or whatever. A lot of things will remind you of him, and it's this might sound silly, but I actually stopped listening to certain bands, like songs and everything all together, because it just had too many memories, and every time I would listen to that song I would think of him and start crying like a little baby. And it's just like, I'm not going to torment myself more than I already am, because I already do miss him. Every day when I wake up, I'm already automatically missing him. So alright, the next thing, sorry, I was reading my notes. The next thing that is, that you'll hear a lot of people say is that at least you could talk to him over the phone. Yes, communication nowadays is a lot better, considering, you know, what the communication was back then during the other wars, because they didn't have Wi-Fi, smartphones or whatever. But with that being said, like I said in my other video, communication it's difficult, because they're 9 hours ahead, and it's hard for you to keep track with, you know, when he's working, when he's not working, once they have downtime, when he has time to talk to you. And yeah, it is true that he can talk to me over the phone, but sometimes the communication isn't the greatest in the universe. Like, sometimes you'll talk to him over the phone, you can just hear it in his voice that something's not right, like something's wrong, something's bothering him, and he's trying to talk to you normal, and it's just, you guys argue over the phone. And I try not to argue with my husband, and if they start to get a little ugly, I would tell him, I love you, I'm gonna go, bye, because I don't want to argue. I don't want to say something I'm going to regret later in the long run, because people say stuff out of anger anyway when they get up to that point. So but yeah, yeah, we can do video chats, you know, talk over the phone or text or whatever, but once you hear from them, you wish you could talk to them more than what you are. And sometimes, like I said before in the other video with the puck, which is the Wi-Fi thing they have over there, sometimes the communication is good, sometimes it isn't. It's just a hit and miss with that, it really is. So another thing is true, we were dating when he got enlisted. It took me a minute to, you know, think about that and still want to stay with him, because I knew with that being with him, I knew if I wanted to progress this relationship into something more serious, which apparently it did, because now we're married. But the thing is that when you marry him or her, that they're already enlisted, you're not marrying just them, you're also marrying their career. Which means, you know, they're going to be moving around a lot, there's going to be times where you're not going to see each other for long periods of time, so... And always have their career in mind, because they're in the Army, there's a lot of rules and regulations they have to go by. And that also applies to you, because you're married to them. So if you do something, they also get in trouble. So you also got to think not about yourself, but of them as well. So, which should apply to any marriage anyway, but this is different because you're not just marrying him, you're also marrying his military career, so. Another thing that you'll hear people say, I heard some people say this and some people disagree with it. I think it depends on the person more than anything else, is that, well, when this first occurred to me, when we were dating before he went into boot camp training, I knew his personality very well, but when he came back from boot camp training, his personality changed a little bit. But I'm also worried because, like I said, this is my first deployment I'm dealing with, so I'm actually nervous that his personality will change, but it doesn't necessarily, he won't change all the way, but hopefully this won't interfere in our marriage, because a lot of people get divorced when they're married to someone that's in the service because their personalities do change. Or, you know, another thing is that they cheat on each other, or whatever. It might be a combination of the both, or something just can't work out. I just want to work things out with him. And another thing is that I'm worried about his personality changing. Of course, anyone would be concerned about that. And some people say, oh, his personality won't change. I've heard some people say that. I heard some people say his personality will change and what to expect when he does come back. But those are the ones that have already been through what I'm going through right now. So another thing that's true when you hear people say it's hard for you to plan anything around his career, because him being in the service, it's unpredictable. Like when they're going to go to field training, when they're going to go on deployment, or whatever, when we'll be PCSing, or you have to be flexible, basically, because when you're with them, wherever the service tells you to go, whatever branch they're in, and mine's the Army, of course, it's whatever they say, you have to do. So really don't have much of a say in it. This is our first duty station, so when we move, and it's going to be hard to say goodbye to some people, but it doesn't mean we won't be in contact with them. But yeah, that's what I've known so far about what to be true and what not to be true about when you hear people say certain things or whatever. So I hope that video was helpful for you guys. Sorry if I seem a little distracted. I had it's been a hard week on me. Family issues, personal issues with that, and so next week we'll be talking about what it's like to be friends with other military spouses, and that all that stuff, how it is important to keep in contact with other military spouses, because it is important to have that community. So we'll be talking about that next week, and hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope it was helpful. Hope you guys had a good week, and I hope you guys have a good coming week, and I will see you on the next video. Bye!